For waiting, we might as well get started. So welcome everybody to today's career panel event for international students. We're really excited to be here today. So myself and my colleague Mooney is here to help support you. So we're actually careers consultants for international students. So it's great to have a job that's kind of dedicated to you. And we're looking forward to the rest of this trimester also providing you with other events as well that are specific for international students. And today we've got some lovely guests. So we've got some previous Griffith alumni, including Sandra, who's a Bachelor of Social Work graduate, and also Antonio, who did his honours in mechanical engineering as well and is currently working here too. And in addition, we've got Micha, who's a current international student in nursing. So thank you for joining as well, everybody. So what we're looking to do today is get a few different perspectives of, I guess, things that you can be doing while you're at uni around your studies, because obviously you're here studying, but you know, everyone's here to look for work as well. So you know, how to develop those skills and how to get a job while you're at uni, but also how to get a graduate job as well. So today we're going to be hearing firsthand experience from people who have been successful to get some work in different various fields and hopefully find it beneficial. At the end, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A session as well. So if you do want to ask any questions yourself, I have prepared some questions for them first, and then if you kind of think, oh yeah, there's some other things I'd like to ask, feel free to use the Q&A function just at the top of the session there. We've also got in your chat function as well, if you have any comments or if you want to introduce yourself, if you haven't already, feel free to write your name and course in there. So before we get started, I just wanted to do an acknowledgement of country and just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, all the lands that we're meeting today, and just pay my respects to elders past, present, and also extend this respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students joining us today. So, firstly, just a bit of housekeeping. So you've probably noticed that you're probably on mute already, but you know, down the track, if you want to ask any questions during the Q&A, feel free to raise your hand. Ideally, just do it through the Q&A function though, because then that way we can be a bit more organised. Also, feel free to rewatch the recording if you like. So if you have to, you know, duck in and out of today, that's fine. There's going to be a recording and also PowerPoint slides sent next week. Mind you, there's not really too much in the PowerPoint slides, but it's going to be more of the conversation that's going to be more beneficial to you for this particular session. So before we get started, I just wanted to highlight our careers service as well. So as I said, Mooney and I specialise in international students, but we've also got a total of 12 career development consultants who are here to support you. And we've got a lot of different events happening as well as appointments available. So have a look and see if there's anything of interest, if you want to discuss anything further about any of the topics that come up today. So firstly, I just wanted to welcome our guests today. So obviously we've got Sandra, Antonia and Micha. I guess to start off with, did you want to start, Antonio, and just introduce yourself just briefly, and then we'll kind of go around and hear from the others as well?
Yeah, I can do that. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yep, so my name is Antonio Grimm. I'm the operations manager here at ADAPT. ADAPT is here at Griffith University. We are one of the business units here. We don't belong to any school. We're a central facility. We mostly service industry. We also service researchers and undergraduate students. I myself, my background is from the military. I used to be in the US Navy. I did that for quite a number of years. I was stationed out of Pearl Harbor. When I got out of the Navy, I decided to switch careers and pursue an engineering degree, which is what brought me to Griffith in the first place. So I studied here as a mature age student. And then when I finished up, got a job working for, again, the defense industry for a couple of years, and then found my way back to Griffith because they made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Great. Such an interesting story. Thank you for sharing. And Micha, did you want to go next? Introduce yourself a little bit.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So my name is Micha Suba. I am a current third-year nursing student at Griffith University, specifically at Nathan campus. And I'm originally from the Philippines. And I am part of the Griffith Mates program. I also peer mentor my nursing cohort. And also I represent Griffith University as a student ambassador.
Great, thank you. And Sandra, are you there, Sandra?
Yes,
Sorry, I'm not. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Hi everyone, my name is Sandra Yu. I am originally from Hong Kong. I graduated from Bachelor of Social Work in 2021, and I have did my placement. So for those that who don't do social work, like we have to do like a 1,000 hours of paid placement. So I did those in a primary school and a child safety. So if anyone have any question around that, I'm happy to answer that. And I'm currently working in the NDIS, working with people with disability side. So I started off with a support coordinator, and I'm currently a specialized support coordinator.
Great, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us as well. I can see there's still some students coming in now, so that's great. So I guess we'll start with some questions to each of the panel members, and then after that I'm going to ask some questions to everybody and kind of to the floor, and then we'll follow that with some student questions. So Sandra, if I could ask you first, so I know that you did your Bachelor of Social Work at Griffith, and then you also did your Diploma of Social and Psychological Science at Griffith College. So can you describe your experience as an international student and how your experience has helped you gain work for your professional career?
Yep, sure. So yeah, I started off with 1 year of diploma at Griffith College. I really appreciate that because that was when I first moved from Hong Kong to Australia, and I think that year was kind of built up my foundation of getting into used to the new culture and new environment and learning all sorts of new things in those years, and then prepare myself to jump to the university and do my social work at there. And experience of being international student so I was based in Gold Coast campus, and that was really huge, and I love it, and I always spend lots of time in the library, and I try to join a lot of social events as much as possible, and to make friends and get myself being exposed to the learning culture here. So there are lots of events that I joined in the past, which I think they should still be here, or they might get changed or more opportunity now. So there's something I used to join. I know that Micha is part of the Griffith May. They have a lot of event, like culture event, or I used to go to a yoga group at night time on a Wednesday, and I think it was $5 or it was free in entry. That was nice. I make some friends that who also like doing yoga, and I went to the gym at uni as well. I also make some friends from there, and spend lots of time at Griffith Library, and because we have to all study and do assignment, and also I also spent lots of time to speak to my lecturer and tutor, because I found that was really helpful, because I didn't really know how to do assignment, because the things in Hong Kong and here is a bit different, and we need to do different referencing and how like the approach we write the assignment was a bit different. So I found that was really helpful to have that private session with our tutor. And the other thing that I also joined was really helpful is the program called Industrial Mentoring Program. So I think they're still around.
Yes.
So I have met around 3 tutors there, because every semester you can only link with 1 tutor, mentor. So I joined through 3 semester, and so you can like link with, you can have a look on the mentor profile and you can ask around question, and from that I was connect with different people in the field that I was interested to get in. So even though in social work it was such a big field, but there was a lot of different area like there's Queensland Health, there's a child and family, then school, and there's so many different areas. So with the mentor that I connect with, they were like working in the field already, so I could ask some question around those field and find out if that's something that I want. So that was really helpful. And when I was studying, I also like work part-time. So I was starting or doing some very like easy hospitality job that was not very related to my social work degree, but I guess that's how everyone started easier when they got to a new country. So I did that a bit. I used to work at a casino. That was very fun and made lots of friends, and actually one of my best friends also from like I'm still connecting with, we met at the casino. And then so I just keep like, it was just more like for me to putting some sidetrack from my studies, so then I just don't do study all the time. It could be quite boring sometimes. So I work in that, and then after I get more understanding of my field, I get a part-time job in my like social work field. So that's how I think I did it in the middle of my bachelor degree. So that's how I starting to get my feet on the door of my career. That was maybe a bit more long answer than
No, that's really great. Thank you for sharing all of that stuff. That's some great tips for current students as well, because yeah, as you said, the industry mentoring program is still going, and yeah, it's great, even though obviously yoga is not directly related to your career. At least that's a great way to meet friends, and same with your part-time job. I'm sure many students would have a part-time job, and it's sometimes about making friends, but also just making connections that you never know who might know who. So yeah, that's great that you're obviously keeping busy with that as well. So my colleague Mooney has just popped in some links in the chat as well, so just about the Griffith Mates program and also industry mentoring, so have a look at those too. Right, thank you. So next question for Sandra as well. So Sandra, did you come across any barriers to finding employment both during your course and afterwards? And if so, how did you overcome those barriers?
So I probably would not talk too much about the hospitality job, because I just really ask my friend and go on sick and just keep applying and probably walk into send them my resume, but that wasn't really related to my degree. But when I first applied jobs in my industry, I think that was in the middle of my degree, and I wanted to get like some sort of a assistant or entry role to experience how does it look like when I was studying before I graduate, so that I can get some experience in there. So definitely, like, I do think when I was a student, it was much easier to get a even part-time job or like assistant position as a student, because people don't really expect you to know a lot because you're studying, and I could easily get like interview and like a job opportunity like after very easy in the beginning. So I know that there was some job seek website like Seek, and I think that in different career or different industry, they have their own job seeking like website. So with mine, like maybe like for part-time job they probably use Seek, but if for like more full-time job they probably use something else. So there are some other site they call like ethical jobs, you know, if it's government, it's on like MyGov, sorry, not MyGov, smartjobs.com. So that's a bit different than things I didn't know before. And I knew that, you know, as I go and ask around my friends and the mentor as well, that's what they told me. And that was what I, you know, when I start off get my foot in the door for the assistant job. I used to work like as a support worker, NDI support worker, like working with people with disability when I was a student. And I found that when I was doing that, there wasn't a lot of people doing it, and also NDIs and disability wasn't a very common industry like for university student, but now it has been becoming more. So because when I was doing my work, I did my support worker job with a lot of nursing students, which like I didn't have nursing background, but they would see like my degree like as a transferable skill. So I do think that if students wanted to get some experience, don't be afraid to, you know, just send through your resume, and, you know, as long as you're passionate and then you want to learn, that's what the employer would see, and they will give you an opportunity to learn there. And after I graduated, I would say that is more challenging to get like a full-time job than when I was a student. So as I said, there was some other platform that I didn't know for looking for jobs. So, and then I found out that after I spoken to my mentor, and then so I was very lucky that during my after I graduate, I was still connect with my mentor. So we did a few of the like interview role play, so that kind of really helped me to prepare how to do that interview, and also receive a lot of constructive feedback from that as well. So even though like if you don't have like a mentor, maybe like a peer, that if you both are looking for job together, I think that that's a still good opportunity for people to review each other and provide feedback to help each other out. And also some like challenge like in the workforce, there's definitely something like as a international student, like in the aspect of like I didn't have like, because I didn't grow up here, so some of the Australian culture, like their welfare system, that was not something that I was know since I born. So that's definitely something that I had to keep learning about it, and also showing on my resume that, you know, I have continued learning, not just from my degree, like some other certificate, they are like in social work, they are like mental health first aid, youth first aid, your yellow card, working with disability, working with children, those kind of things are pretty much compulsory if you want to get into the field. And there are some other course, like free course online, that you can do like a professional development. You can show it on your resume, and your employer would look at that, and they will find that's something that you're different than other candidate. And I think when I look for a job, I did have some kind of thinking, because I didn't get the job right away. So it took me probably 2 or 3 months. And also that was during like Christmas period. So that was a bit tough, because Christmas people don't tend to respond to applications. So, and I did feel, or is maybe Australia don't tend to hire international graduates. So I was a bit sad, you know, at that time. But I can't do anything. I just keep applying, and I got some interview opportunity, and then ran for it, and some I didn't get it, and then, you know, and ask for feedback, and then we, you know, improve it in the next time. And so eventually you will find something that meant to be good. I do feel like when there's opportunity for interview, like it's not necessarily you get the job, but it's an opportunity for you to learn. And also if you don't get the job, don't worry, because it's just not meant to be. Like maybe you go to interview, you find that you don't like that company, not best fit. So that's like all part of the journey. And I also find that from I did my degree, and now for the last few years, I feel that like Gold Coast and Brisbane, they are more multicultural, like in the workforce. they hire more people with different background than a few years back. Because when I was working like a part-time in the industry, I was like the only person from a multicultural background. But now in the industry, like in my company, we had a few others, you know, we have like a multicultural background. So I do see that it's becoming more common in the Australian workforce. And the last thing I want to probably mention and share of my experience is like workplace culture. Like I do think that in Australia, because there are lots of like fair work like policy and like like company that usually employer will be linked to, and Australia is quite encouraging fair workforce. So a lot of employer and manager, they have encouraged like multicultural team, or like they always tend to form a respectful workplace environment for us. So this is really good. So if there was like any things that, you know, you see that's not fairly treated towards against yourself or in the team, it is always like welcome to talk to your manager, and they are very open about it. And because they want to maintain their workforce to be respectful, and, you know, no zero bullying, zero racism. So I think if that's something that is unfortunately happened to someone, I do feel like we need to like be confident and empower ourselves to speak up sometimes if necessary, or even if not yourself, but in someone else, it happened in someone else. So I do feel like there's a need to stand up for ourselves. Like, even though, you know, we are some of us, we come here alone, and, you know, we do feel like sometimes we are alone, but just be mindful that your manager and the policy are very supportive, you know, on what, you know, the fairness in the workforce. So yeah, so just stand up for yourself if that's needed. Yeah, I think that's what I want to share.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, it's some really great advice, and especially because I'm sure other students would be in a similar position in the past, and unfortunately, yeah, that does happen with some employers. But yeah, it's great that things are changing, and as we go. And you also provided some great tips as well for students about, you know, maybe doing some interview role plays and things like that. So that's really great advice. And no, I guess, you know, even if you don't get one job, like there'll just be another one kind of hopefully around the corner. And as you said, it's probably going to be the right opportunity for you, the one that you do get, because you want to work there as well as they want you, and then yeah, it'll be mutual. I also like how you said about asking for feedback as well. So if you're not successful for an interview, yeah, don't be afraid to ask for some feedback and how you can improve for next time. Because there will be a next time, and, you know, you can always work on whatever feedback they give you. Thank you. So next, I just wanted to ask you a few questions, Antonio. So you have an interesting career story. So obviously being in the US Navy for 6 years, and then you moved to the Gold Coast to complete your mechanical engineering course. So what advice would you give to current international students who might have recently arrived in Australia, and also to those who might have had previous careers overseas or in their home countries as well?
Well, thank you for that, Belinda. Everyone can hear me, yeah? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. I would second and very much promote a lot of things that Sandra said in that regard, is that it is very challenging to get a job when you're an immigrant to Australia. When you apply for the program, because, you know, I was mature age when I came out here, so I already had a career in the US. When you apply, it looks like it's a very cruisy process. The information's right there. It's very easy to understand. But when you get here, what you find out is that a lot of employers, culturally, not because of any legal reason, but culturally, still have a hesitation to hire internationals, whether they think that those internationals are just transient, as in they're not going to be here long term, or they think that, oh, there might be a language barrier, or, you know, any one of 100 different issues. And even with myself, I'm from America, where we have a very, very similar language and culture. I still struggled. To give an example, when I finished as I was finishing my engineering degree, those last 6 months, I went online and applied to 30 different well-known engineering companies, large and medium-sized engineering companies, applied to 30 of them. Out of those 30, about 20 of them replied back saying, sorry, this opportunity is only open to permanent residents or citizens, and the other 10 just didn't bother to reply. And this is, someone, again, who speaks a little language, who has the background, who even has, a security clearance, what have you. So it can be very challenging. However, there's a way to get past that. And it's something that we learned in the military when we were transitioning out. And it's that to get a job, most jobs, something like between 70 to 90% of all jobs are gotten from people you know. They're not gotten from using Seek or from applying, just doing a cold contact or going on a website. They're gotten from you having a conversation with somebody else and having an authentic conversation. So for example, if you use LinkedIn, and I highly encourage every student to use LinkedIn. If you use LinkedIn, it's really helpful for professional careers, not so much for the part-time work. Like I had a part-time job just like Sandra did. I worked in retail. I worked at an Under Armour outlet at Pacific Fair. I did that for quite a few years through my degree. I just walked in the store, had a conversation with them. They hired me on the spot. That part's easy. Professions is where it gets tricky. But with a profession, use LinkedIn, reach out to people who work at that company, and then have a real conversation with them. Don't just follow them. Don't just add them to your network. Don't just spam your whole network. But you'll have mixed results there. Actually, just reach out to someone, have a chat with them, and say, hey, look, here's my situation. Here's what I've done in the past. Here's what I can do right now. Are you interested? And I would say one in 3 times that you do that, you'll get a job offer. It's far easier and far less work, although it's far more daunting because a lot of people are very nervous about talking to people they've never met before, people they don't know. So there's that public speaking aspect. But if you can get past that, then you're golden. Another point that I'll make is that for engineers in particular in Australia, it seems to be unusually challenging to get a job here as an international. I don't know why that is. I actually don't know the stats for other professions. Other professions might have the similar problem. But for engineers, something like, and this came out in Engineers Australia a couple of years ago, something like 55%, if I remember correctly, 55% of people in this country, born in another country, moved here with an engineering degree, do not work as engineers. And that's not to say that, oh, that's because they've gotten promoted, they're working as managers and what have you. No, they're just not working in the engineering field. Some percentage of them are Uber drivers. Some percent just wanted to do something else with their life. Some people, that tiniest percent don't have to work. They just sail around on their yachts for a living. But for the rest of them, it can be quite challenging. But there is hope, and there's a strategy, and it's proven.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Thank you. Yes, and definitely that hidden job market, like you got to tap into that. And as you said, Antonio, it's pretty daunting to kind of reach out to people and talk to people, especially if you don't know them and they might mean a job that you might want to get into and things like that. But it's all about practice, isn't it? So kind of,
Yes.
I guess the more that you do it, the more comfortable you'll feel. And I usually recommend to students to practice on a few employers that you don't particularly want as much, and then kind of work your way up to the ones that you really want and go from there. But yeah, some really good tips there. Obviously some jobs are advertised, but not all jobs are. So next question for you. So during your time studying at Griffith, you were very active with some societies and some activities. Did you want to highlight to current students what activities you felt were beneficial to do alongside your course, which might have benefited in your career in the end?
Absolutely. Again, what Sandra said, industry mentor program is very, very beneficial. I could not speak more highly of them. I worked with them as a casual for some amount of time. I signed up for the program, and I think it was in my second year when I signed up, and I got set up with a mentor. The beauty of the program, the real benefit you get, is that the ladies who run it, they link you up with somebody who has a similar career as you, and you can request that that person be at the same level as you. You can request that they be a bit higher, but they're in the same career as you, but they're already doing it in this country. So two big benefits I got from that is, one, they took me to a lot of networking events, like over a dozen networking events. It's not to say that all of them will, but if you ask and they're going to events, they might take you along with them. So you go to the events and you get to meet heaps of people and you learn about the culture in the country. Also, having them as a resource means that when you have questions about, well, what are the expectations for this profession in Australia? Because expectations are different all around the world. In the country that I came from, in the US, if you have a bachelor's degree in liberal arts, you can go get a job as a bank manager. Like, your degree doesn't necessarily need to line up with the profession that you're doing. But here in Australia, it's quite the opposite. It's very rare that you find somebody working in a profession that don't already have a degree in that profession. So you learn those little things, and there's a lot of them. There's thousands of them. You don't know what you don't know. So big shout out to the Industry Mentor Program. Absolutely get involved. They're more than happy to have you on board. They have there's no capacity for them. And what I mean by that is, if every single one of you in the chat right now all signed up, they can accommodate that. The other thing that I would add is play a sport or join a social club. Very, very important that when you go to network, just to echo back to my last comment, when you network, do it authentically. And if you're playing a sport, or you're in a social club where you're just interacting with other people on a regular basis, then you build these strong connections where you don't know what that will lead to. That person that you've been playing sport with, yeah, they might be at uni at the same time as you, but 2 years after you graduate, they might be working at some awesome company that you want to work at, and they can put in a good word for you. And then just like that, you've got a job there. Or they might be working at an awesome company and then find out, oh, this company we do business with is hiring, and then they put in a good word for you. So playing a sport, throughout my military career, I played sport, and I met far more people in the military, of all places, by playing sport than I did by doing my regular job. So absolutely. But if you're not really into sport, you're into other things, just join any social club.
Yeah, perfect. And it sounds like it's very similar to what you experienced as well, Sandra, with kind of joining those clubs and things like that and keeping yourself busy, but also a way to make those connections. I also like about how you were talking about expectations as well, Antonio, and yeah, how those expectations can differ depending on which country you're from as well. And obviously, Antonio, as a current operations manager with some other leadership experience, what advice would you give to students who might also be interested in leadership or management type positions?
All right, this one, I have a very strong opinion about this, but that's probably because of my military training. And I see Jeffrey Langley here in chat, also former military, so will probably echo my sentiment. When it comes to management, there's quite a lot of people who will just go to get a degree in management without ever having been in charge of other people or a program or what have you, that's all right. But if you want to be good at being a manager, if you want to really learn how to do it, then you have to be in the role. And more importantly, in my opinion, is beyond the management side. Management is just one tiny aspect of it. The real big part is the leadership part. Leading by example, doing the work that you expect other people to do. So, for example, here as the operations manager, I can run all the equipment here. I have the knowledge to run all the equipment. So when it comes to other people running it, if they have questions, I can answer those questions. And even if you don't have, very specific target knowledge, if you just have a broad overview of how to do the things, then you can provide advice. You can tell them where to get answers. You can put people in contact with each other. Again, networking. A lot of problems that can be solved in your workplace just by knowing who to get the information from or who to link up one of your workers with. So the leadership aspect, absolutely. Part of what I learned in my military training, and this is not me speaking on behalf of the military, this is just me speaking personally. Part of what I learned in my military training is that being a good leader, being seen as an effective leader means that even when you have no authority over other people, they'll still follow your example. So that, I would say, keep that phrase in mind and apply that mentality towards being a manager.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. No, it's really good to know that obviously that practical management experience is really desired in the different industries as well, as we know. But, you know, even if you are studying management, it's great to get that practical experience if you can, in whatever capacity you can get it in alongside your uni. Obviously, it depends on how many hours you've got in the day.
If I could add to that, what you just said there about get experience where you can, joining the clubs, joining societies, even just getting a part-time job gives you these opportunities to be in charge of something. And don't be afraid to be in charge of something, you know. The worst that can happen is, you know, you find out that you're not very good at it, then you find someone else to help you with it. That's usually the worst outcome, especially when you're just getting started. Like when you first get started, nobody's putting you in charge of $1 billion program or anything like that. So get the experience wherever you can get it, and look for it in places that you don't think you would get it. Like, again, you don't need to be in your profession to get leadership experience. You could be you could join the Griffith first year mentors and be a senior mentor, for example. You could be a leader in, you know, if you play a sport, you could be a team captain, or you could just be, you know, if you're playing footy, you could be the captain on defense while someone else is captain on offense. There's countless places you can get leadership and management experience.
Yeah, some great tips. Yeah, I was actually I was talking to a student the other day who said, oh, my you know, I had a look at the clubs and societies, and there was a gap that they identified of, you know, something that they wanted to do, and we kind of had a discussion and said, why don't you just kind of take the lead and see if you can initiate a new club. And so they're like, okay, great. And they were actually studying something related to management and wanted to kind of build that experience. So we kind of spoke about how that goes hand in hand as well. So even just any examples of thinking out the box can always help with that practical stuff. And final question for you, Antonio. So reflecting on your past experiences, what do you think are the key skills, attributes and traits that you would really look for when it comes to hiring any employees, and why are they particularly important for you?
I would say, as an engineer, but also as just any employee anywhere, the two skills I wrote down, I'm just looking at some notes I wrote here. The two skills I think are most important is 1, resiliency, and 2, curiosity. With the resiliency, things will go wrong in your job. You'll show up and you'll try to get some work done. You might think, oh, this will take me an hour. It then ends up taking you 4 hours. If you have good resiliency, then you'll do those 4 hours. You might whinge a bit, but at the end of it, you're happy, you're proud of the work you did, you move on to the next task. If, however, you find out that, oh, this 1 hour thing is going to be 4 hours, I'm just not even going to try, well, that's a deal breaker for a lot of employers, for virtually all employers. And as far as the resiliency goes, in the engineering context specifically, we as engineers design all the things that you see in the world, whether it be cups or mobile phones or satellites or planes or submarines. We design stuff, and nobody gets a design right the first time. It's rare to even get it right in the first 10 tries. But, you don't get it, you try again. And resiliency, people can lose sight of where it is that they do have resiliency and forget that they are resilient. For example, if you find emails very frustrating, you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to reply to any of these. Well, think about a time when you went to play, I don't know, basketball. you don't just throw the ball up once, miss the hoop, and go, okay, I'm never going to throw the ball up again. So being resilient, that's a key trait that I look for in people. In fact, when I do job interviews, and I've done dozens of job interviews, when I do interviews, I ask questions about, if this thing went wrong, how would you respond? Because I want to see how they would respond, at least theoretically in that discussion. And sometimes actually, I might actually have something go wrong during the interview and see how they react. And if they're resilient, then that puts them right at the top of the list. And then curiosity, that just goes back to customer service stuff that I learned in the US, where Americans are obsessed with their customer service. For curiosity, if you go into a shop and you ask somebody, hey, where can I find this thing? If you go into Kmart and say, where can I find the sporting goods section? And they go, well, I don't know, I just work here. That to me shows a lack of curiosity, that they're not interested in knowing the layout of their own store, much less many other things. Without that curiosity, they're not going to grow in their job, and they're not going to strive to do a good job when someone's not telling them step by step what to do. So curiosity, resiliency.
Yes, I agree. Some great tips there. Thank you. So we'll come back to you at the end when we kind of talk to everybody. But for now, we'll go to Micha. So Micha, so obviously you'll be speaking kind of on behalf of current students as well. So throughout your stay here in Australia, you've embraced opportunities such as Griffith Mates, working for Griffith International as a student ambassador, working as peer mentor for your fellow nursing students. So reflecting on that university experience so far, what do you feel is your proudest accomplishment that you'd like to share? And what do you think, how do you think that what you've experienced so far will prepare you for work as a nurse in your profession?
Yeah, everyone can hear me, right?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so as a third-year nursing student here at Griffith University, yeah, reflecting on my university experience, I'd say I'm really glad that I'm always putting myself out there. It's also very difficult at first because, you know, I'm also like scared and overwhelmed learning a new language, and also like getting to know different people, you know, meeting new people in university, and also just getting used to the education here in Australia. But being able to be part of these organizations or programs, it really helped me build my confidence as a student. So I actually started off as a Griffith mate at university, and my goal was just really to build connections with other students and also improve my communication. And then after that, it just snowballed. Like after joining Griffith Mates, I had the opportunity to apply and represent as a student ambassador for Griffith University. And then later on, for my nursing cohort, I was able to express my interest to become a peer mentor. And another accomplishment that I've just recently done is that I've been awarded as the 2023 Rotary Club Southport Scholarship. So that was really helpful in my end, because as an international student, it's also difficult financially, and it can be really challenging, especially if you don't have support. But at Griffith University, ever since I started here, like from my first year of nursing until my last year, there's always been support around. And I think these experiences really prepare me for my work in the future, because these skills that I've gained can be transferable as well. Like, for example, with Griffith Mates, I'm building those connections with people, like improving my communication with them as well. One thing with student ambassador is problem solving. I've come across a lot of students or like international students who are interested in studying here in Griffith, and they want to know how to apply for this. They want to know where to find information. And so as a representative of the university, we were trained and we were taught how to address these things. So I think it's really transferable when it comes to my profession, or like when I'm applying for nursing in the future. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great insights. And obviously you've been very busy while you've been here as well, which seems to be a bit of a key theme coming through. Everyone's very engaged, which is great. So, and I guess for you, Micha, too, so through your volunteering as a mentor with your peers, what have been some of the main concerns that you've heard from students, and what has been your advice to them?
Yeah, one of the things that I've come across was, is it possible for me to work and study at the same time? And I would always tell them that it is possible, you know, especially like just a bit of a background, like where I came from in the Philippines, we didn't really have the opportunity to work and study at the same time. It was just always studying. And so when I came here to Australia, it was such a huge, like I had to, what was the word? I had to get used to it. And it was so difficult because I was juggling study and work at the same time. But I would tell them that the university here in Australia, you like this, the classes are actually flexible. So for example, like at the moment, I'm only studying 2 subjects to finish my degree. And that gives me so much time to work as well at the same time, and also do placements also. And I think it's all about really time management as well as a student, really knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Like, oh, can I work twice a week, or can I work 3 times a week, or even 5 times a week, you know, and then allotting the rest of the week for study. But it is very possible to juggle study and work. You just really have to be aware of your limitations as a student and as an employee, and what you can do and what you can't do. Another concern that I've come across was, is it hard getting a job here in Australia as a student, and like getting a job after you graduate? And I always tell them that there's always a lot of support around, especially in university. Before, so I currently work as an assistant in nursing in a hospital. And before getting that job, I actually started working as a sales assistant at Zara. And that went for a year. And it was also challenging because I never had like an experience working as a retail assistant. So it was really on the job training and stuff. But they were very supportive. I never felt discriminated on my workplace. Everyone was really helpful. And now that I'm working in a hospital, the skills that I've gained from my retail assistant job, I was able to transfer them. So, which was really, really good. But yeah, I guess it can also be difficult getting a job. So you really have to be persistent. You really have to be determined to just be open-minded to a lot of opportunities. Take them if you can. And that's what I did. Like when there was an opportunity at university, I would just take them. The student ambassador opportunity as well is actually a job as well that I'm taking alongside. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna express my interest, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'll just take it. And so far it's been really rewarding. So I really encourage you guys to really try to put yourselves out there outside of your comfort zone, because there's so many opportunities, and you know, as an international student, we don't really know what happens in the future if we can't stay here for long, or we have to go back in our countries. So make the most out of it, and definitely, like if you didn't got the job or the opportunity that you wanted to, that's fine. Just keep on trying, because you'll really grow as a person, and that's, I think, really good, you know, as a student as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some great insights. Thank you. And I definitely liked how you keep saying you just got to put yourself out there, because yeah, it can be hard to do that. But yeah, I think if you do that, you know, more opportunities will be available for you. A little bit daunting, as we were saying before, about, you know, contacting employers and things like that, same kind of thing. But yeah, that persistence is really good to keep in mind too. So thank you. So now what we're going to do is just open it to the floor. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then just whoever wants to answer, feel free. So my first question is, you know, many students that are listening today might be nervous or unsure about finding a job in Australia. And what would be your real world advice for international students who are looking for employment while they're studying and after graduation? And what can international students do now while studying to prepare themselves? Obviously, we've gone through a lot of other things today already, but is there anything else that comes to mind for any of you that students might be able to do in addition to what we've already discussed?
I could provide some.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
So I think we spoke about a lot of doing part-time job, some related to your career or some not. But the other thing I also did, and some of my peers also did, was doing volunteering. I know that Micha, the Griffith May program, and some sort of other program that you were doing is also volunteering. So I think volunteering in your career is also helpful. Like, so Antonia mentioned approaching someone, you know, on LinkedIn, you know, and, you know, ask them if they have some, you know, some kind of opportunity for you, and those can be volunteering. So because I think that as a student, well, we don't have as much as financial stress. We do have, you know, when I was a student, but when you like getting into workforce, it has more financial stress. But before that, I think we can afford to do a bit of volunteering, maybe once a week or a few hours a week. That would also help to build your resume.
Mm-hmm. Yes, some great tips as well. Yes, definitely volunteering can help. And sometimes I even say to students, you know, when companies are asking for relevant experience, it doesn't necessarily need to be paid experience. Like, it's just relevant to what you're getting into. Volunteering counts too. So yes, thank you.
Can I actually add on that as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like definitely with my experience with Griffith mates. So since you're building that connection, and you get to like be directed by the student coordinator, they could actually provide reference to you when you're applying for jobs, which is so cool, because they get to see what you're doing as a student and what kind of activities you do. And so when it comes to like applying for jobs in the future, you can just email them, flick them a message and say, hey, I'm applying for this job, and you know, is it all right if you could be one of my references? And they would be so happy to provide you with that. So it's really great. Yeah, Griffith Mates is such a good opportunity for international students. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Antonia, did you want to add anything else to that? Oh, you're on mute.
I said, no, I think Sandra and Micha did it justice.
Yeah, perfect. So next question. So many international students often say they're not being hired because they're on a visa or as an international student. you know, while these might be some barriers potentially, there are also other important things to consider too. And so what advice would you have to prepare them, you know, if they're unsure if the business is hiring international graduates, and how would they find meaningful work in Australia?
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually currently applying for my grad positions in hospitals, and I just recently attended an information session from Queensland Health yesterday, and they said that for international students, what they wanted to know for us is that as long as we are, we know when our visa expires, and like they want to know what we're going to do with it. Like, okay, what are your plans with it? So for example, recently I actually had to renew my student visa to keep me going here in Australia. So in the future, I told them and reassured them that my current visa will be expiring at this date, and my plans are going to be this. So I'm going to be applying for this type of visa to allow me to continue working and living here in Australia. And they definitely know that. And there's opportunities for international students. I think it's just mainly they just want to know what your plan is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's what we always kind of say to students as well. So I guess, you know, employers just want to know a bit of confidence that you're going to hang around. That's their main concern. You know, is your intention to stay, or are you just going to, you know, get this experience and go home and things like that? And I mean, you might be, but at least it kind of explain to them that, you know, this is my plan, as much as you can anyway. So thank you.
If I could add to that as well.
Yeah.
I would say, well, one thing is be mentally prepared for a lot of people to say no, and for them to not say no, you know, face to face or even by an email. Just be prepared for an automated system to say no, especially given that everybody has access to AI to write the perfect resume and write the perfect cover letter. That just makes it all the more important to have that human connection. But a lot of people are going to say no. And with what Micha said there about the employer wants to know, what do you plan to do with your visa? What are the conditions of your visa? I would second that and say, familiarize yourself with your visa. Make sure that you know that your visa is only 3, 4, 5 pages long, typically. The real meat of it is only a page and a half. Familiarize yourself with your work restrictions and what you're not restricted from. If it doesn't say on your visa that you cannot do that, then yes, you can do it. So for example, if your visa says you can only work 20 hours a week, then you can only work 20 hours a week. But if it doesn't have a work restriction, you could work 40, 50, 80 hours a week. You could work multiple jobs. And in my experience, most employers are not at all familiar with the visas, either because they've changed over time, it's been, you know, so many years since they last checked, or they themselves have never even had to look at a visa. If you ask me about American visas, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what's on an American visa. I couldn't even tell you if it even says visa at the top. It might say something else entirely. I think I was in my teenage years. I grew up in the northern part of the US. So it wasn't until I was a teenager until I knew that green card just meant permanent residency card. But you always hear that in the movies, like green card. It's like, why does the card have to be green? Like, what's the special green card? So yeah, absolutely be familiar with your visa. And you know, it's all written down in plain English. It's all on the immigration website. And if you have any questions at all, call the immigration department. They have a phone number on their website. When you call, I have found it far easier to get a hold of an immigration agent. I might be on hold for 3 to 5 minutes compared to, say, getting a hold of Telstra, where I've been on hold for 2 to 3 hours. So that's my advice there.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And yeah, very true about Telstra, I would add. Okay, so we might just do maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then what we're going to do is do Q&A from the students. So I can see it's great that you've started to put some questions into Q&A. So if anyone else has any students for the panel, any questions for the panelists, please feel free to put them in the Q&A now, and then we can have a bit more of a discussion about that too. So my next question for all of you. So I guess obviously we've spoken a bit about, you know, networking and approaching people and things like that. Obviously this is a bit daunting for people that haven't had to do it before. And in particular, if you've just come from overseas and you have to network when you first come to Australia. So what would be your advice and the first thing that you would do to start building a network in Australia that each international student could potentially start today?
Industry mentor program.
Yeah. Perfect.
Definitely join like student activities. Like for example, if you're just starting uni, definitely attend orientation week, because there's a lot of like clubs and societies that can be there, and you'll find your interests. And then especially Griffith Mates. So Griffith Mates is actually, the Mates actually stands for Mates Arrival Transition. Oh my gosh, I should know this, but it's a program that helps, it's a volunteering program that welcomes international students to Australia and helps them transition into university. So they can help you connect to different supports at uni, like financial support or even academic support. And they also have just like building network activities, such as the multicultural night, where you get to dress as your home country, like if you have like a traditional costume, and it's such a nice night to just mingle with other international students, knowing where they've come from and how long was the travel getting to Australia. But yeah, things like that, definitely hop on those events. Also, besides Griffith Mates, the Griffith University has a student council called SRC, which stands for Student Representative Council. So they also like have movie nights or pottery classes, or you could also climb the Story Bridge here at Brisbane for a very cheap price. So things like that, it's such a good opportunity to just build connection with people and also just explore Brisbane as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, and as Mooney said, yeah, I wasn't sure about the acronym either. I didn't realise there was one. So that's great to know. We'll look into that further. Perfect. And I guess the final question to anyone who would like to join. So I guess what is your last piece of advice that you would give to current international students based on your own experience? Sandra, did you want to go?
I would say we definitely come here to study, but do as much as the things that not related to your study. Like no friends that are not like you will meet friends from your cohort, but do make some other friends not from your cohort. And also if you have a hobby, you know, playing sport, tennis or, you know, volleyball, you know, join those groups while you were at uni, because when you work full-time, you have probably only the weekends free time to do that. And so from that, when you were at uni, you already form a network there. So those relationship and friendship would like become your really good support throughout your journey in Australia. Yeah, so I think do more things, not just apart from your study.
Thank you. And Antonio, did you want to go next?
It's actually, I was just reading one of the questions from the Q&A about, was it Anita had asked, what are the chances of finding a part-time role in the IT industry. And the answer that I gave there is the answer that I'll say here as well. Be open-minded about opportunities. Don't just limit yourself to, I only want to do this one thing. Be very open-minded. Before I even joined the Navy, I was a bartender. Little known fact about me, I was a bartender for several years, and bartender in New York of all places. And as a bartender, that's where I really got good at socializing with people, at just having small talk, and where I got really good at talking to small to medium-sized groups. So I still use that skill set today. The skills that I learned in the military, transferable to what I'm doing as an engineer. My engineering skills are transferable to my relationship with my partner. All your skills are, they're all interchangeable skills, and they're skills that, if you imagine, okay, I'm doing a business degree and I want to be a mid-level manager. Well, take on the role of, go work at that company that only has 4 employees. That's a really good thing that stuck with me from my mentor, from some of the mentors I've had throughout my life, is that small companies give you big opportunities. And what I mean by that is, if you work at a company that has 4 employees, you will inevitably be in charge of something. If you work at a big company like, say, Boeing, not to call out Boeing, just as an example of a big company. I don't know if they actually do this. But if you work at a big company that has 10,000, 20,000 employees, it's real easy to just disappear into the background, to just be, one of 100 people in that role, not really be given any responsibility. It'll be, every day will just be like the movie, was it Office Space? It'd be just like the movie Office Space, where you're just going in, looking for your stapler, and you go home. So yeah, diversify, work at small companies to get really good experience, and then move on to bigger companies as you have that experience and you want to take on bigger roles, because bigger companies pay more. Unless, of course, you love that little company, then stay there forever.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so true about a lot of small companies. Yeah, you can kind of get that exposure to different areas. And yeah, I really like your advice about not particularly being really, really focused on a certain particular job or area, kind of thinking broadly as well. What else relates to that? And definitely transferable skills is a bit of another theme of today, which is great. Micha, did you have oh, sorry, Antonio, were you saying something?
No, all good.
No, okay. Micha, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it is definitely normal to feel overwhelmed and scared coming into university, especially in a new country like this. But I can assure you that there is so much support here at Griffith, from academic, from financial, like even your course conveners, like they are the best. They're the best. Because when I was struggling myself, like last semester actually, I was just emailing my course conveners, telling them about my current situation and how it's affecting my well-being. And they would just acknowledge that. They would send you an email back and say, we understand that this must be a difficult time for you. These are some resources that you can use for yourself. And I was actually connected to a counselor at university, and that really helped me so much. So I just really wanted to reassure you guys that there's so much support, and it is definitely possible to get jobs here, and also build connections here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Micha. Thank you, everybody. So that's kind of the end of my formal questions. So now I've just got the Q&A open at the moment. And thank you, Antonio, for, I just noticed that you've commented on a lot of these already. So where have we got? So also, if at this stage, if anyone else wants to add a question or to raise their hands, please feel free. If you want to verbally ask the question as well to any of our panelists in particular. And also, if you've got any particular, I mean, obviously we've got engineering, nursing and social work here. So if you've got any particular questions about that as well, feel free. So what have we got? All right, so obviously we've got Anita, so the chances of finding part-time IT, so we've gone through that. Anita, so how do you manage time, other activities like clubs, Griffith mates, when you have to work and study? Antonio, did you want to talk a bit more about that, or either of Micha or Sandra, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So yeah, in my case, how I managed my time for activities and then study and then work is that I always had a planner with me. It can either be like a paper one or a digital planner, and it just really helped me jot down certain activities that I want to apply for. So the good thing about the Griffith Mates program, if you really wanted to join, is that they ask you to put in your interests. Like, they give you a list of activities that they offer for that trimester, and you get to choose at least 2 to 3 positions that you want to be involved in. And then they already give you the dates and the time of when the event will happen. And so that's so good, because when you're planning on your calendar, you get to already put them down on your like journal, or like, yeah, your planners and diaries. And then on top of that, when you're like enrolling for your classes, they also put the days that you have class on, and it's just so easy to have a layout of what's going to happen for each week. In terms of working, so currently I work part-time in the hospital. So I work at least 2 to 3 days per week, depending on what my manager gives me on my roster. So as a part-time, you always have, so in my hospital, my nursing manager always needs me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So those days, I'm going to cross out on my calendar. I'm not going to do anything. And then the rest of the week, I can either study or, volunteer if I can. But I've realized last year that I always try to, if it's study day, it's just study day. I'm not going to work, because that loses my momentum. So for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have classes. I'll just focus on classes. I'll get assessments done. I'll just allot that time for that. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I can have the time to work if I want to, and volunteer if I want to as well. So there's so much flexibility. And on top of that, I wanted to add that if you explore the Griffith website, there's actually resources for international students regarding how to manage their time. So you can just put in everything that you want to put there, like even travel time, So yeah, I'll try and look for the link, but yeah, that really helped me a lot.
Oh, you're on mute, Belinda.
Sorry, I'm back. Thank you, Micha. That was really good information to know that there's those tips for international students as well. So we'll see if we can find the link too for that and send to students. Antonio, did you want to add to that?
No, I've done plenty of talking.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. So what else have we got? So we've got, okay, so we've answered from Jason. Freelancing in the creative industry. So thanks, Antonio, for your comments on that. Yeah, I guess if you've got any other specific questions about that, Jason, it might be worth having a careers appointment as well and just discuss those specifics a bit further as well. So what else have we got from Jay? So nursing student, like Micha. So Jay's got a question regarding the visa. So in the application portal for the grad position, there's a section for visa status. Since I cannot apply for the graduate visa yet, I put my current student visa, which expires March. Concerned about affecting the application process. How could I appeal that I am eligible to work further after graduation? Okay. So does anyone have any advice on that? Obviously, we're not, migration agents in that particular thing, but any advice from your experience?
Yeah, so I'm just currently reading it again. Application portal for the grad position. Yeah, so actually my student visa actually expires as well on March. But honestly, I haven't actually gone through the portal just yet, so I'm not really familiar with it. However, what I could also suggest is that if you have like a contact email or a contact number that you can reach out to them and explain that I'm currently applying for grad positions and my current visa is expiring at this date. But I also wanted to reassure you that this is my plans for the future, that I'm going to be renewing it as soon as I can before it gets expired, so I can continue studying and living here in Australia. I think that would be my best advice for now, just to like really email them. Yeah.
I agree with that. The easiest thing, echoing back what I said earlier, most employers have no idea how the visas work. Either, again, because they've changed, because the visas change every 5 to 10 years. All the rules around them change, or they never had to learn it in the first place. So just email them, let them know what your situation is. They might not even know you're on a student visa when you're a student, and they don't know what the other visas are. Just in the time that I've been in this country, so I've been here 7 years, I have seen the work visas and the permanent visas change, must have been 3 times now, just in the last 7 years, after a major overhaul 3 years before I got here. So yeah, they just email them or phone them up and say, here's the situation. Are you okay? Are you okay with this? And 90% of the time they'll say, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess at the time you can only kind of explain what you do have, and especially if it's the application form for a job, and then yeah, some good tips there. You could also potentially put it in your cover letter of your intentions, as Michael was saying, of what you plan to do. So what else have we got? Got some more questions. Sorry, I'm just trying to find questions. Okay, so Jingwei, so any suggestions for maintaining the connections with people you met during a networking event? Thank you, Antonio, for commenting on that one as well. So adding them on LinkedIn, chatting to them at the event, summarizing what you talked about. Yes, definitely agree with that.
It's a little trick that I use there, and it
really
helps out. Now, there are some people that I met a couple of years ago, and I send them a message, and then 2 years later the name pops up, or I see them and I go, oh, I know you from somewhere, and then I look back my LinkedIn messages, oh yeah, this person, yeah, oh, and here's what we talked about. And then people like that, because then it makes them feel like, oh yeah, I do remember that, and you get the warm and fuzzies and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and I guess it provides a link for them, but for you yourself as well, for a bit of a record in the system for later.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a great icebreaker.
Yeah, that's good. What else? We've got Teresa. So just arrived in country after permanent resident. Started my studies as an international student overseas. Question is, can I still have access to career mentoring services or volunteering opportunities? Thank you, Mooney, for replying to that. So Mooney's just said, as a Griffith student, Griffith Industry Mentoring Program is available for Griffith students, so all Griffith students. Volunteering opportunities is for, is for everyone who want to connect themselves with community and think about what type of volunteering opportunities you want to pursue. Yes, all right, thank you, Mooney. And what do we have? Okay. Thank you, Mooney. You've been busy. Thank you. Mooney's just been replying to some of these questions that are a little bit more specific. Yeah. Short course in aged care. Okay. And then we've got a question here for Micha. So we've got, hi Micha, a first year nursing student planning to work as an AIN at hospital after completing my placements by the end of trimester. Could you please share more information about how you found your position at the hospital that you work in currently? And also, what is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. So when I actually applied for this job, it took a very long time. So just to start off, so when you apply for nursing related jobs here in Brisbane, so as a first year nursing student, that's great that you're gonna go through your placement. So that means you already have that foundation or like basic skills that you can take with you when you apply for jobs. With my experience, I don't know if it's still the same with like right now, but when I applied for jobs, they wanted you to be at least a second year nursing student, mainly because they wanted you to have like a very good foundation. Like you've already done a few placements with you. You've done maybe aged care experience as well. But I actually started also as a agency nurse. So before getting this hospital job, I actually applied for nursing agencies such as Caring for You, First Choice Care, Alliance Nursing, and I currently work for MediServe at the moment. So these are also good nursing jobs that you can get into first before getting into a hospital job, because these type of jobs, they're very flexible with nursing students, so they don't have a lot of expectations from you. They don't even expect you to work like for example, if you can only work once a week, that's totally fine with them, or even not at all, because they understand that you're a nursing student, you know. So definitely look into nursing agencies. They're usually around Seek websites, Indeed websites, or even try their actual websites, because it's also easy to apply through those. When I got this job at the hospital, it was actually from Seek as well. And I remember applying it for April last year, 2022, and I got an email back from them around November last year. So it took a very long time, and I already gave up on it because I was like, I don't think they need me anymore. And they didn't even responded to me saying, oh, like, we've reviewed your application, blah, blah, blah. I never received that. So I was like, what's going on? So for the meantime, I was just applying for agencies. But with the hospital one, I really encourage to just keep applying on these websites. Keep an eye on them, because every now and then they post these jobs. Recently, the newest thing with nursing at the moment is a job called USIN, which stands for Undergraduate Student in Nursing, which is a really good opportunity for nursing students that wants to build their experience before graduating already and getting paid as well, because with placement, we don't get paid, which is so unfortunate. But as a USIN, they offer this. I think the most the hospital that offers a lot of USIN opportunities is at Princess Alexandra Hospital. So if you look into their website, or even Seek or Indeed, sometimes they'll pop up these opportunities. So yeah, definitely. Best way to contact me, I can put in my student email address here as well. So if any of you guys have any questions related to nursing, or even like Griffith mates or any other things, just flick me an email. I'm happy to respond to that. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for all your tips. This is good. Thank you, everyone. So from here, we'll just wrap up for today. But thank you so much to all the panelists. It's been so great to hear all of your insights, and especially being international students yourselves, it's so good to hear, you know, your tips for current students and everything. It's been, I'm sure, very valuable for them as well. Before we get started, before we finish off, I've just got one quick, if you don't mind, little survey just to get your opinion for any future sessions. So we're going to be running these quite regularly, Mooney and I. So if you've got any feedback or suggestions for any future events, please feel free to just do the QR code now. Hopefully it works okay because we're online. Fingers crossed. If not, we can email you the survey as well. Just let us know. If there's any other questions that we haven't had a chance to answer, please feel free to just type it within this chat and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, thank you so much to our panelists, and I hope everyone else enjoys the rest of their day. And thanks for joining. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, no worries.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.